I still remember the cold look in my son's eyes the day they told me I was going to a nursing home. "It's for your own good, Dad," he said, his voice thick with fake concern, but I saw right through it. The house I'd built with my own hands, the family I thought loved me, they were all turning their backs on me. I packed my bags in silence, heartbreaking with every step. My daughter barely looked at me, too busy scrolling on her phone to say goodbye. My daughter-in-law smiled that fake smile, the one I knew meant she'd won. The same woman who had whispered poison into my son's ear, convincing him I was just a burden. I wasn't helpless, but they wanted me out. They wanted my property, my money, my freedom. And the next day, while I sat in that cold, unfamiliar nursing home room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to stay there. That night, I called my oldest friend, my lawyer, and started a plan they never saw coming. A plan to take back control of my life and my home, the very home they thought they'd stolen from me. If you think family always has your back, think again. Sometimes the people closest to you can be the ones who stab you in the heart. This is my story, how my own children tried to erase me and how I found a way to fight back, to reclaim what was mine, and to finally find peace far away from their greed. My name is Amir, and I never thought I'd tell this story. But here I am, because sometimes the truth has to be spoken out loud. I was married to my late wife, Amina, for over 40 years. She was my rock, my partner, and together we raised 2 children, my son, Rehan, and my daughter, Sarah. Amina passed away 5 years ago, and that's when things started to change. Without her, the cracks in our family began to show. Rehan, my son, was always the quiet one. He had dreams of a simple life, but after he married his wife, Nadia, things shifted. Nadia came from a wealthy family, and suddenly Rehan started acting differently. He was distant, cold even. I think the money and status began to cloud his mind. Sarah, my daughter, was the bright spark. She lived in another city with her own family, but kept in touch. She was the one I felt closest to, or so I thought. Nadia, Rehan's wife, was sharp and calculating. From the moment she stepped into our lives, I felt a change. She was polite, sure, but I always sensed there was something else beneath the surface. I couldn't put my finger on it until it was too late. Then there was Mr. Malik, our family lawyer. I trusted him to help with the estate matters after Amina's death. But I started noticing odd calls that Rehan would take privately with Mr. Malik, documents that seemed to move around without explanation. I also had a small group of close friends, old neighbors, and colleagues who supported me through thick and thin. They warned me about trusting too easily, but told me to hold on to my strength. Our family had its struggles, sure, but I never imagined it would come to this. The people I raised, the people I thought loved me, turning against me. It was like watching a slow, painful unraveling of everything I'd worked for. And the worst part, it wasn't just the distance or the cold words. It was the lies, the secret meetings, the way they whispered about me when they thought I wasn't listening. Little did I know, those lies would lead to the darkest betrayal the day they put me in a nursing home against my will. The first time I noticed something was wrong, it was subtle, almost easy to miss. Rehan and Nadia started asking about the house's legal papers. At first, I thought it was just normal talk. After all, with Amina gone, some paperwork had to be updated, right? But then, they began pressuring me. "Dad, it's easier if you just sign these forms," Nadia said one afternoon, handing me a stack of papers. Her voice was sweet but firm. I could tell she expected me to agree without questions. I asked what the papers were. Rehan shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "Just some formalities, estate stuff, nothing to worry about." But I wasn't so sure. I asked to read the documents carefully, but they kept brushing me off, saying, "You trust us, right?" That's when the coldness started. The smiles faded, replaced by impatience. Sarah called less often. When she did, her voice was distant, distracted. At family dinners, conversations turned awkward. Rehan and Nadia talked over me, ignoring my stories. Once, Nadia laughed at a memory I shared about Amina, mocking my nostalgia in front of everyone. It felt like they were trying to erase the past. I remember the day Rehan told me bluntly, "Dad, you should consider moving to assisted living. It'll be easier for everyone." My heart sank. "I'm not a burden," I told him, but he just smiled and said, "We're just trying to help." help, or control. One evening, I found a file tucked away in Rehin's room when I visited unexpectedly. It had copies of legal documents, some with my signature, some I hadn't seen before. Among them was a document transferring power of attorney to Rehin. I never agreed to that. When I confronted him, he said, "You signed it last month. Remember, you must have forgotten." I was stunned. How could I forget something so important? I realized then they'd been manipulating me, pushing me into decisions I didn't fully understand. It wasn't just the papers. I overheard Nadia on the phone, speaking coldly about getting the house sold and clearing Dad out. The woman I once tried to welcome into my family was plotting against me. One night, I sat alone in the dark living room, clutching Amina's photo. I felt trapped, powerless. How had my own children become strangers? How had greed poisoned their hearts? That's when I started to suspect there was more going on, something hidden behind closed doors, something they didn't want me to find out. I decided I had to fight back. After the shock of the forged papers and the cold betrayal, I knew I couldn't just sit back. I needed to find out what was really happening behind my back. So, I started paying closer attention. One afternoon, I overheard Nadia whispering on the phone in hushed tones. She said things like, "Make sure everything's finalized before he figures it out. And we need to keep the will out of his hands." My blood ran cold. I began noticing secret meetings between Rehin and Mr. Malik, our family lawyer. They met late at night in cafes, away from the house. I wasn't invited, of course. When I asked Mr. Malik directly, he gave vague answers about protecting the family's interests. I started to suspect the worst, that my own children were plotting to cut me out of the inheritance, the home I'd lived in for decades, and the assets that I'd hoped would support me in old age. Sarah, my daughter, didn't seem involved. She was distant but not cruel. I hoped she would stand by me, but even she hesitated when I asked for help. One day, I found a small envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a photocopy of a will, but it wasn't the one I remembered. This one left most of the estate to Rehin and Nadia, with only a small portion for me. How could this be? A different will? Had Amina signed it without telling me? Or was this another trick? I felt trapped in a nightmare where everyone I loved was against me. They spoke in lies and half-truths, pretending to care while making plans that betrayed me. Every time I tried to speak up, I was met with silence or excuses. "Dad, don't worry about things you don't understand," Rehin would say, a smirk hiding behind his words. But I was beginning to understand too much. That letter from Mr. Malik came late at night, slipping under my door when I wasn't expecting it. I hesitated before opening it. Part of me feared what I'd find, but another part hoped for answers. Inside was a note from the lawyer himself, written in his usual careful script. It said something like, "Mr. Amir, I believe you deserve to know the full truth. There is a second, older will, one that your late wife signed years ago, which remains legally valid. This will leaves the main property and assets to you, not your children. Unfortunately, your son and your daughter-in-law have been working to keep this will hidden. If you wish, I can help you reclaim your rights." I couldn't believe it. A secret will, hidden from me all these years. How could this have happened? Mr. Malik's note was a lifeline. It meant I wasn't powerless yet, but it also meant betrayal went deeper than I thought. The lawyer I had trusted was caught between loyalty to the family and my children's greed. I reached out to Mr. Malik the next day, and he confirmed everything in a private meeting. He explained how Rehin and Nadia had pressured him to hide the will, to delay any legal actions that might restore my ownership. But he also promised to help me fight back if I was willing. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Rehin and Nadia had already started moving assets, selling furniture, changing locks. They thought they could erase me, rewrite history, and take everything for themselves. The lawyer warned me to be careful. "Your children have influence. They're not afraid to use it," he said. Still, I had to try. I began gathering all the documents I could find, pieces of evidence to prove the older will was real and valid. I called old friends, neighbors, anyone who could remember Amina signing it. But every step I took, I felt eyes watching me. Whispers followed me at family gatherings. Rehan's smile was colder, sharper. Even Sarah seemed torn, caught between loyalty to her brother and her father. I realized the battle wasn't just legal, it was emotional. It was about trust and betrayal. Armed with the truth and backed by the lawyer's support, I finally decided it was time to face Rehan directly. I needed to see the man who had once been my son, the man who now seemed like a stranger. I invited him over one afternoon, making sure Sarah was there too. I laid the photocopy of the older will on the table between us, watching his face closely. "Do you know what this is?" I asked quietly. Rehan's eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite read. Denial, fear, anger, he laughed, but it was hollow. "Where did you get that?" he asked, voice sharp. "I found it, and I have the lawyer's word this will is real. It means you and Nadia have been lying to me, hiding the truth." Sarah looked down, her face pale. She said nothing. Rehan's expression hardened. "You don't understand how things work anymore. That will is old, irrelevant. Besides, we've taken care of everything now. You don't need to worry." His words were like a slap in the face. I stood up, my voice firm. "You don't get to decide what I need. This is my home, my life." Nadia appeared suddenly, arms crossed, her smile cold and mocking. "Maybe it's time you accepted reality, Amir. You're a burden. This family has moved on." I could feel my blood boiling, but I held my ground. "Not while I'm still breathing," I said. Sarah finally spoke, voice trembling. "Dad, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry." Her apology was weak, but it was something. The confrontation didn't end with peace, far from it. Rehan stormed out, Nadia sneering behind him, but I knew something had shifted. I was no longer invisible, no longer powerless. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind raced with memories, regrets, and plans. The secret will wasn't just a piece of paper. It was my last hope to take back what was rightfully mine. With the lawyer's help, I learned more about that old will. My late wife, Amina, had drafted it quietly years ago, making sure the house and most assets stayed in my name, in case anything ever went wrong. She had wanted to protect me, and it seemed she knew more than I did about what could happen. The will had never been registered publicly, hidden away in a safe deposit box at the bank. Rehan and Nadia had found out about it and tried to bury it, but now it was mine to use. I went to the bank with Mr. Malik, heart pounding as we retrieved the old documents. Holding the will felt like holding my life in my hands again. It was legal, valid, and gave me full rights to the house, the villa, and all other properties, assets that Rehan and Nadia had been quietly trying to claim as their own. The villa abroad, a place I'd rarely mentioned, but one Amina and I had bought years ago as a getaway, was also mine. It was untouched, safe from their grasp. Suddenly, the future looked brighter, but the fight wasn't over. Rehan wouldn't give up easily. Nadia's greed ran deep, and I was still vulnerable in that nursing home. I needed a plan. I needed to act fast before they could move more assets, sell the house, or worse, cut me out completely. That night, I called my closest friends, explaining everything. Their support was like a warm blanket on a cold night. They promised to stand by me, help me gather evidence, and confront the family. For the first time in months, I felt hope. The villa abroad was a secret I'd kept for years, a peaceful place my wife and I had dreamed about long ago, far away from the noise and chaos of daily life. It was my sanctuary, untouched and hidden from my greedy family's eyes. When Mr. Malik and I went through the documents, I discovered something even more surprising. The villa wasn't just a vacation home. It was fully in my name, with clear deeds that no one else could contest. The property was located in a beautiful coastal town, and it had everything I needed to start over. For years, Rehan and Nadia had ignored this property because they didn't know about it. That meant it was safe, completely out of their reach. I pictured myself there, waking up to the sound of waves, walking through the garden Amina had helped design, feeling free for the first time in years. But this was more than just an escape. It was a symbol of hope, proof that no matter how much they tried to erase me, there was a part of my life that belonged only to me. I told Mr. Malik that I wanted to move there to leave behind the lies, the betrayal, and the cold faces. He nodded, understanding what it meant. "It's a good idea," he said. "You can start fresh, and legally you'll have full control." However, moving wouldn't be easy. I was still stuck in that nursing home, surrounded by people who treated me like a burden. And Rihan wouldn't let me leave quietly. I knew I had to prepare both legally and emotionally. It was time to reclaim my freedom, no matter what it took. A few days after our meeting, I found another letter from Mr. Malik waiting for me. This time, it wasn't just words, it was a plan. A way to finally take back control and make sure my children couldn't push me aside anymore. The letter laid out the steps clearly. Revoke the power of attorney that Rihan had tricked me into signing. File a legal claim to enforce the older will. And start the process to transfer ownership of the villa abroad officially into my hands. It wasn't going to be easy. The lawyer warned me that Rihan and Nadia might fight back, using every legal loophole they could find. They might even try to delay or intimidate me. But the letter ended with a sentence that gave me strength. You still have the right to live with dignity and control your own life. It's time to remind them of that. I read that line over and over. It was a spark in the dark. With the help of my friends and Mr. Malik, I gathered every document, every witness, every piece of evidence. We prepared for court battles, family confrontations, and the fight of my life. That same week, I started telling the nursing home staff that I was planning to move quietly, but with determination. I refused to let them treat me like a forgotten relic. Rihan noticed the change. His calls became more frequent, desperate even. "Dad, don't make this harder on yourself." He warned once, but I was done being afraid. I wasn't just fighting for property, I was fighting for respect, for dignity, for the life I deserved. The day the family stormed my house was the day I took back control. They thought I was powerless, that I had disappeared into that nursing home, and they could do whatever they wanted. But they were wrong. I arrived at the house early that morning, before anyone else could get there. With Mr. Malik's help, I had already changed the locks, canceled the fraudulent power of attorney, and arranged for the utilities to be put back in my name. When Rihan, Nadia, and even Sarah showed up, expecting an empty house, they were met with my calm, unwavering presence. "You don't belong here," Nadia sneered, trying to push past me. "This is my home," I said firmly. "I am the rightful owner." Rihan's face twisted with anger and desperation. "Dad, please, let's talk." But I shook my head. I had talked enough. You tried to erase me. I said, "But I'm still here, and from now on you answer to me." Their screams and threats fell on deaf ears. I felt a surge of strength I hadn't felt in years, the power of reclaiming what's mine. Neighbors gathered, watching the drama unfold. Some whispered their support. Others shook their heads in disbelief at how far the family had fallen. That day, I took back more than a house. I took back my dignity, my voice, my life. After reclaiming the house, the atmosphere between us shattered completely. Rihan's anger wasn't just frustration, it was fury mixed with guilt. Nadia's cold smiles disappeared, replaced by bitter sneers. My daughter Sarah, caught in the middle, was torn. I could see the pain in her eyes whenever she looked at me, as if she blamed herself for what had happened. She tried to reach out once, but her words stumbled, and I wasn't sure if it was apology or something else. Rihan finally admitted the truth in a rare moment of weakness. Nadia pressured me. He confessed one evening. She told me it was the only way to secure the future. "I didn't want to hurt you, Dad." His words cut deep, but at least there was honesty a crack in their armor. Nadia, however, never apologized. Instead, she tried to manipulate others in the family, spreading rumors and turning relatives against me. She saw me as a threat to her plans and wasn't going to let me win without a fight. Neighbors started treating me differently, too. Some whispered that I was an old man clinging to the past. Others praised my courage. Despite the chaos, I held onto the support of my closest friends. They reminded me why I was fighting not just for property, but for respect and dignity. Every phone call, every visit became a test of my strength. Some family members begged for forgiveness. Others accused me of tearing the family apart. I realized then that betrayal changes people, not just the betrayed, but the betrayers too. After everything that had happened, I knew I needed to get away to breathe, to heal, and to live on my own terms. The villa abroad, the one Amina and I had dreamed about for years, was waiting. With Mr. Malik's help, the ownership transfer was finalized. For the first time in years, I felt freedom stirring in my chest. Packing my bags was bittersweet. I was leaving behind the house filled with memories and the family that had betrayed me. But I was also stepping toward a new chapter, one where I was in control. When I told Rehan and Nadia, their faces twisted with disbelief and anger. "You're just running away," Nadia spat, but I smiled quietly. No, I was running toward peace. Arriving at the villa was like waking from a long nightmare. The ocean breeze, the quiet gardens, the sunlight flooding through the windows, it felt like home. Neighbors welcomed me warmly, and for the first time in ages, I felt safe. I spent days walking the beach, remembering Amina's laughter and rebuilding my spirit. From afar, I kept an eye on the family drama, but I no longer let it control me. And then, unexpectedly, Sarah reached out. Her voice was shaky, her words hesitant. "Dad, I'm sorry, I was wrong." I didn't know if forgiveness was ready, but hearing those words softened the hard edges of my heart. Life at the villa was quiet, peaceful, a world away from the chaos I left behind. Each morning, I woke up to the soft sound of waves crashing against the shore and the scent of salty air filling the room. It was a healing balm for my tired soul. For years, I had felt trapped, betrayed by the people I loved most. But here, surrounded by nature's calm, I began to rebuild myself piece by piece. I took long walks along the beach, letting the water wash away the bitterness that had settled inside me. I spent afternoons gardening, something I hadn't done since Amina was alive. Tending to those plants felt like tending to my own heart. Friends I'd made in the local community became a new family. They listened, they cared, and they reminded me that not all relationships are broken by greed or betrayal. But healing wasn't easy. There were days when memories flooded back, the harsh words, the stolen moments, the cold looks. Some nights, loneliness crept in, and I questioned if I'd made the right choice leaving. Yet, with every sunrise, I found strength in knowing I had taken control of my own story. I learned to forgive not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Sarah's call was both a surprise and a relief. Hearing her voice after months of silence stirred emotions I thought I had buried deep. She sounded different, softer, more sincere. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said. "I didn't stand up for you when I should have. I was scared and confused." Her words hit me harder than any betrayal. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't between enemies, but within our own hearts and families. I told her it wasn't too late, that family isn't just about blood or money. It's about respect, love, and standing by each other when it matters most. Through our conversations, I realized how much damage greed and fear had done, not just to me, but to the family as a whole. Old wounds ran deep, but healing could begin with honesty and forgiveness. I still wasn't sure if things would ever be the same, but this was a start. Sarah's apology reminded me that even in broken families, there can be hope. Sometimes family means letting go of what we thought it should be and embracing what it could become. This journey has taught me something I wish I'd understood sooner. Respect matters more than money, and now they know it too. When greed blinds those we love, it can tear families apart. But no amount of wealth can replace dignity, trust, and the simple act of honoring one another. I lost much along the way: trust, time, and the illusion of a perfect family. But I gained something far more valuable: the strength to stand up for myself, the courage to walk away from toxicity, and the freedom to choose my own happiness. Money can buy houses, cars, even vacations, but it can't buy respect. It can't buy love. If you're watching this, maybe you're going through something similar, feeling betrayed, hurt, or lost. Remember this: your worth is not defined by what others take from you, but by how you rise after. I'm no longer just a victim of betrayal. I'm a survivor, a man who reclaimed his life and found peace on his own terms. And to my children, I hope this story is a lesson. Respect your parents while you can, because one day, you might lose more than just money. You might lose what truly matters. Thank you for trusting me to tell this story. If you found it meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more real, life stories,